Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast known as Two Men in Black and White, an Honest Conversation. All right, I'm joined by my partner in crime from beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico, Brock Ganeles, the uptown point guard on the road, taking things to middle America. And I am located in ATL shouting. All right, Brock, a day of protest went by yesterday. They seem to be catching on, but nothing seems to be able to stop the train rolling down the track called tariffs. And here we are. Things are going up. Shelves are going to get empty. And Donald Trump really doesn't care.
Certainly doesn't care. Prices are already appear to be up, right? So like the initial impact is already there, but the slowdown in spending started already, right? Consumers are smart, right? So like they get worried, they pull back. They see tariffs coming, they pull back immediately. So the recession started sort of prior to the announcements and the data coming through. And finally now corporate America is acknowledging that they basically have no visibility or any idea what's going on around them. So they've stopped even giving forecasting projections, which is standard operating procedure. Every quarter they give projections on how they think the next quarter in the year is going to be. Most companies have just pulled back and said that too much uncertainty. They can't even give a business projection. Means they won't spend either. Consumers won't spend, and businesses won't. I mean, we're in a recession. I mean, how deep does it get is really the question.
Right. So I'm old enough to remember at a time when people said they were voting for Donald Trump. Let me check my notes here. Because the price of eggs was too high. Well, wait a minute, folks. He said day one he was bringing the prices down. The price of eggs down. The price of everything down. Inflation won't exist. That was all Biden's economy. I'm going to fix everything. Wasn't able to do it. But who seems bothered by it? Anyone?
I don't know, but the strategy is, before I get to that point, the strategy is to gaslight, right? Because Trump was out just yesterday saying that the price of gas is $1.98. Now, I just crossed 20 states in the last... There was nothing that didn't have at least a two handle on it. In fact, I think $2.58 was the lowest I think we saw, which seemed really low to me because where I'm in New York, it's still at like $3.29, $3.39.
Right.
So, but he's out telling people it's $1.98, and everyone in the country knows that that's total bullshit. Right. So he's just trying to lie his way through the economic reality that people are feeling.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Like, I thought we were smarter than this. I thought we were better than this. I thought there are certain things you just like common sense. Like, how can a president have a felony conviction, right? I have to check the box if I had a felony conviction. When my son comes home from prison, he'll have to check the box, right? But you're telling me he can be president, but he can't get a job at the local Walmart? Come on. Something's wrong here.
The supporters don't care. They just want their racism. I mean,
pretty much.
Hitler had a criminal record too, right? And then he came back.
Right.
They just want what they're getting from this MAGA movement, and they'll just absorb a lot of pain along the way as long as they can get what they want out of it. And it's really interesting after that spurt of anger going on at those town halls. Like, I don't know if that momentum continued on the right. It doesn't seem like anyone but a few peeled off from the Trump support. The disappointment is on the left, right? Like, where is our anger? It's actually one of the things I wanted to talk about today. Maybe you think about when you're driving a lot and you got nothing else to do but religious stations popping on, right? And maybe you catch a country song now and again. Is that like, I think we do this podcast, Mark, and because we're friends, it's sort of good-natured. Right. But I think it belies, in essence, like how pissed off I am every day when I read about the latest bullshit. Today's NPR, right? Now, we're going to take the tax exemption from Harvard, right? Today is whatever, Mike Waltz, who yesterday we thought was fired, is now, we're just going to reposition him over in the United Nations. So there's really no one really has felt the pain of the signal gate, right? Still,
Right.
nobody's lost their job over it. And those are just the things that are on the top of my head that pissed me off today, right? That was just
Right.
today's bullshit. Like, and that's just
Right.
the stuff that whatever I know about. Like, it's not the thousands of Latinos that got carted off in vans and now they're in gulags, right? That's just the stuff that was top
Right.
of mind today. And that's like every day. Now I see why black people have high blood pressure
Right.
because you're just every day
Constantly.
absorbing injustices and things that anger you and wondering how they're going to get changed. Where is everybody in terms of acknowledging this and implementing change?
Right. And then the high blood pressure comes from people staring you dead in the face, telling you it's not happening.
Yeah.
That's not just, that's not what's
Yeah,
going on.
gas is $1.90.
Right. Right. And so, between Lutnick's mangoes and his mother-in-law not complaining about getting her Social Security check, I too feel the rage. The fact that this guy, somehow pulled off that election. And somehow America told us that the brown lady, wasn't quite accomplished enough to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
But the felon was, right? And that's really what it all comes down to, right? Like you said, they don't care. The incompetence is just at an all-time. Like, have we ever seen anything resembling this kind of incompetence? The rollout on everything they do is just god awful. They're not good at anything. How did these guys get rich? Like, how did Lutnick become a billionaire? What are you good at? It ain't governing, that's for shit sure. It ain't creating policy, that's for damn sure. Like, none of these people are even dynamic. They don't even come across as good leaders.
Well, certainly the second version, right, has worse people because the
Right.
good people, the Millies, even, I'm no John Kelly guy, but right, like, he was legitimate, right?
Right.
I wish he would have spoken up a hell of a lot more to this day. But, he's a legitimate guy who could, provide some semblance of order
Right.
amidst the Trump lunacy and chaos. And now we're older version of Trump with more mental decline, saying more crazy shit, doing more crazy shit with more grudges, but also understanding how to wield power better, right? At just the
Right.
base level. Like, he knows he can just lash out and get away with shit because it's like, well, who's to stop him? And the only people that can stop him is the people.
Right.
And we just haven't gotten there yet. Once again, yes, a whole bunch of May Day movements, marches.
Right.
Positive, good, directionally positive, good momentum, but still is, Bernie was out again today in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. But
Right.
is it strong enough? Is the language strong enough? Is the willingness to be disruptive hasn't, really been there, except in the Tesla. The Tesla
Right.
protests have been the only ones that said, we're going to be disruptive. We're going to stand in front of this door. We're going to shout people down. Like, we're going to, New York shut down their Tesla sales showroom, right? Like, they
Right.
literally have shut
Oh.
down some Tesla, storerooms. Like, I guess in DC, there were some people in DC that shut down some streets in DC just a couple days ago, and it was only a handful of people, which went to your point that it won't take that many
Won't take
to
much.
shut the whole city. I'm just waiting
Not
for
at
the day
all.
on the calendar. I said maybe it was that last Saturday in May. Like, there's just got to be one of these 50-51s where it's like, maybe it's like not a, let's do like a 151,
Right.
and
Right.
all descend on DC.
Well, think about this too. The Army just confirmed that the military parade for Trump's birthday is happening.
I think there's got to be a protest day. I think maybe
Absolutely.
that's the day. It's like maybe Trump put the day on the calendar.
Yeah.
Maybe we all just go there and stand in the road. And what are they going to do? Are we going to be Tiananmen Square? Like, are they going to roll us over with tanks? Or they won't, right? It'll ruin the parade.
100 soldiers, 6,600 soldiers to march from Arlington, Virginia to the National Mall, 150 vehicles. Like, what's the purpose, right? He's trying to emulate these other, tough guys around the world, Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin, and you're not those guys.
The purpose is ego and maybe some intimidation,
Right.
maybe some sense of I do have the military on my side, which is why I think that has to be disrupted.
Right.
I cannot see how America, right-minded people, let's call us, or left-minded people, the opposition, are going to sit back and allow Trump to
That.
have a military parade. There's
Right.
absolutely no way. If you
Right.
want to go out and protest at a Tesla, how can we not just flood the streets so that that march can't happen?
And
They're
it's
not
not
going to
hard.
shoot people so that they can have a march, right? And
It's
if
not
they
that
do,
hard.
then we have the Civil War we kind of maybe
All the timing.
expect.
Right.
I get it. White people need to be out there doing it first.
Yeah. And all we have to do is create a traffic jam, which ain't hard to do. It's a traffic jam anyway in DC. Right. And when they start trying to clear streets, we block it up, before it happens. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not that difficult. I don't understand why Indivisible and, the rest of our lawmakers and anybody else who doesn't agree with this bullshit and this fascist state. Did you see where Ashley Babbitt is now
Yeah.
going to get
They
paid?
get paid. Yeah.
Like,
The
okay,
family's going to get paid.
right. And the first words out of my mouth, why didn't she just comply?
Yeah.
Why was she breaking? Why do they always seem to break the law, right? Comments usually reserved for the black guy that was unarmed, that was killed by the police, right? And so then you talk about the daily rage fits. Like that is one of them. I'll never forget, Brock, where I just had to sit there and cry. We were going back and forth over how we were going to handle the Trayvon White situation with George Zimmerman and the arrest. And I was in Dallas at the time. And, I just remembered screaming at my kid because he came through the airport with a hoodie on. Remember the hoodie? The whole
Can't wear a hoodie. Yeah.
Can't wear a hoodie, right? And I'm
Yeah.
yelling at my own kid who's coming from a prep school with his hockey bag,
For wearing a hoodie up.
wearing his hoodie from his hockey team.
Yeah. Like he's doing the wrong thing because like he can't just wear his clothes like normal because now he's a
Right. And now I got high blood pressure medicine still to this day. And so, but it bleeds into everything we do, Brian. I talked to you about that neighbor of mine, and I couldn't stop thinking that it had something to do with race that day. Right. And then I said, well, you know what? I'm not going to let him take me there. Right. That's why I'm learning how to meditate. Right. Learning how to pray. Right. And get more control of the things that I allow to bother me, because there are things that are out of my control that I have no control over. So I might as well not damage myself internally, right? Get all stressed about it and be in pain for no good reason for something I can't control. And it's almost like this is the first time I've ever felt like there was no control over our daily lives.
Well, now I think I can't be the only white person who's feeling it, right? Because it's like, okay,
Oh,
I can't, every time a new executive order is written, every time a new action is taken by the government, the first thing I think of is like, where's the white supremacy in this play? Okay, they want
right,
to defund NPR. Well, where's the white supremacy? They don't like it. It's considered too liberal. It's going to talk about, multicultural and multiracial nation. It's going to embrace America as a democracy, right? Like, and equality for all. Okay, well,
right,
the white supremacy movement, Project 2025, doesn't want that. It has to be defunded. Okay, Harvard has to lose its tax exempt status. Oh, why? Oh, they have all these international students there. It's a melting pot. It's a place where, left thinking ideas can come out of. Okay, so to me now, the way you think why there's racism and everything, I'm always like, well, what's the white supremacy play on every single one of these actions, from taxes to Doji, right?
yep,
To our international relations, all the way down, to deportation, certainly, right? That's an
right,
obvious one. Even the tariffs may be just a Trump ego play because that might just be a greed play. But even
right,
the greed has a white supremacy play behind it because who's
absolutely,
getting all the money, right? This small cadre of white people who want to carve out like this, country within the country that looks
right.
different than America looks. That just it's an anti-demographics play. So like I've become like now, so I can't be the only white person who just sees the white supremacy in every single action.
And you're not. And let me tell you why. I had a conversation today with my accountability partners. And, they're entrepreneurs, black men, right, married to black women. And I say that because one of the partners said to me, I'm just trying to get my daughter going. I'm trying to get her motivated. So I suggested a book. Happened to be the book, The Success Principles by Jack Canfield, a white man who taught in the inner city of Chicago and found his mentor there and became one of the best-selling authors that we know in terms of the personal development space. He said, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that book from her. And he was agonizing. I said, what are you talking about? I was like, this book is amazing. It's like successful people talking about how they did it. He said, yeah, but she and her mom are so pro-black everything. They just may not want to hear it coming from my God. I said, but think about the white men in our lives that have given us opportunities. And he said, I know. He said he just got this great deal signed from a conference. He met a gentleman at a conference. They're going to start working together. The guy told him about his franchises. He's got 31 other potential customers for him, right? And so if he nails 15 of them, it is incredible, right? It's going to be making tens of thousands of dollars a month from this one deal alone. And he said, the guy I just did this deal with, he is a white guy. I said, my point exactly. I said, they're trying to start a business and they don't want to work with white folks. I said, who are they going to sell to? Right? Who are their clients going to be? Right? I said, they're going to have to figure it out. I said, so you got to have this conversation. And he was dreading it. And I get why. She grew up in a southern state with a whole lot of racism, hearing the N-word on her way to school, people driving by in cars, rural roadways, screaming out the window, Confederate flags and all that crap, right? And so he grew up in the inner city. Never heard that kind of crap, right? Because the white folks were driving through the hood, right? Especially to yell and scream negative comments. So my point to him was, look, you and I both know there are well-meaning white folks out here that we are friends with, that we do business with. And in my case, those have been my best clients, right? And have been my best and most consistent clients. So, we have to understand how to be a part of, what do we always say, right? A multicultural, multi-ethnic coalition that splits up the pie because there's enough for everyone, right? Like I always say, because Brock is winning doesn't mean Mark can't. And because Mark is winning doesn't mean Brock can't.
But I know we're going to have to figure out a way. I mean, I guess you're doing it one person at a time, is to get black people to get out there with white people. Like,
yes.
Just the numbers aren't there without it. It's just not going to happen without it. The thing is,
well, it's coming.
White people on the left are outnumbered by MAGA white people.
Right.
So that we need people of color to get the numbers.
Absolutely. There is no choice about it.
Okay, so this is going to be week 2 of that State of the People Power movement. I think they're in Alabama.
I think it's Birmingham this weekend.
Tomorrow, which is a little more interesting, right? Now we're, deeper south, whiter country into Alabama. So hope that, bears some fruit. And, the budget, at least the fact that there's going to be this budget debate, and I guess maybe some semblance of a fight, because there's even some MAGA Congress people that are balking at the Medicaid cuts because they just see how many people it's going to hurt. Probably they're just worried about the white people it's going to hurt, but like they see it's going to hurt such high percentages of their constituents that I think some of them, just don't think they can pull it off, or maybe they have just a little bit of a conscience left, or a little fight in the dog against Trump where they just feel like literally killing people is a bridge too far.
Right.
People are going to be people are going to be dying from appendicitis again, right? Because there's just no doctors and hospitals around. People are just going to be dying from the most treatable things in the world, because there's just not going to be any. There's going to be, like they say, there's food deserts, right? You're going to have healthcare deserts, right? You're just going to have whole regions where there's just not going to be facilities.
Right. And Brock, I walked past the television earlier this evening. The ABC affiliate here was doing a special report on the lack of pediatric care in rural communities. I mean, how insane is that in the richest country in the world?
And rural communities, when they say rural communities, they're kind of using rural as a euphemism. white, because if it was urban, it would be different, right? And they're not going to do that story because media doesn't care. But when it starts
Right.
hitting a rural white person who's supposedly, right, that's like the real American, right? That's always
Right.
been that mythical real American, working on
Right.
a farm, living out in the country, owning a couple guns, got a couple dogs also, right?
Yeah.
Maybe drives to the big town for a college football game on Saturday,
Right.
and does backyard barbecues with it. You got definitely has a flag
You're
on that,
flying. Yeah.
right?
Big time.
But those
Big time.
real Americans, now they're going to lose their health care like that. That doesn't seem to fit. That's core constituent, right? That's
Right.
like MAGA. That's the voter. That's the voter that's been there for 100 years.
Exactly.
So I don't know, but this fight's going to bring this to the fore. So it's going to be a little quote harder to hide,
Right.
and so all these
So all hands on
issues are
deck.
going to be right out there.
Yeah.
And media will cover it because it's going to affect white people.
Exactly. And if you didn't see the federal workers town hall last night
No,
on MSNBC, so I watched some clips on
no.
YouTube.
Who hosted it?
Stephanie Rule
Okay,
and Jacob Sobroff.
okay.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. Black, white, Latino, very interesting points of view. One white female even said she had the opportunity to get her job back. They said, if you speak to the media, you cannot have it back. She said, okay, I'm not taking it.
Yeah, First Amendment, right? Everything comes with strings, right?
It's always transactional with Trump and his people.
Fucking joke.
And so, like one of the ladies they interviewed was from USAID. And she was so passionate. As a matter of fact, she had written to Cory Booker, and during his
To sit in?
during
Oh
his
no, his
yeah,
26-hour thing.
the 26-hour thing on the Senate floor, he read her letter, and she was there. It was an amazing moment. He called her a truly great American. They were both blown away at the opportunity to meet each other. And, it was one of those moments where you see why people do what they do. It's not about money, right? It's about helping other people. It's about the empathy for other people. This woman said in her letter, I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage, but I'm scared for the people who we are no longer helping, who we can't get medicine to, who we can't get food to, who can't flee war and stress and strife and military action.
Yeah, you don't take that job to get rich, right? You're just getting by. You're living a decent like middle class life, but you're not wealthy off of working for USAID.
Not at all. Not at all. All right, my friend. So
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm still looking like we still need more fire, Mark. All right, I'm hoping State of the People keeps, the energization going, and I'm just gonna keep hoping that the budget fight really brings out like white leadership to be fighting kind of for everyone, and that black people see white people fighting for them, fighting for their health care at like the base level. I mean, that's what we can hope for, or maybe push that. And we're definitely shutting down DC on that day of that bullshit military march. That thing is not happening. That is not happening.
Power of the People tour is in Raleigh, Durham this weekend, Birmingham the following weekend. So we'll keep an eye on that, and we will reconvene tomorrow with same energy, same fire, same anger.
Yeah, Mark. We'll see how the Southwest treats me. One little tidbit thing. One thing you do notice is you notice which states have legalized marijuana. Because as soon as you go over that border, boy, there's a sign, and they're ready to heat you up. Sometimes they even got this billboard in the other state, like, hey, 10 miles, you get to Oklahoma, free weed's available. Growing up when that was always illegal and so demonized, it's kind of funny to see it legal. But
it's a different day, bro. We're officially home.
All right, Mark, good stuff.
Have a great night.
Thanks.
Peace.